Welcome to Hannity, and tonight another member of the Biden White House is pleading the fifth, this time Joe Biden's chief of staff refusing to answer questions under oath about the former president's cognitive decline and the administration's illicit use of that auto pen. We'll check in with Chairman James Comer, Greg Jarrett. They will weigh in on what is now growing to be a massive scandal, the potential legal trouble that is now brewing. Also tonight, the border czar Tom Homan will be here to respond to a laughable op-ed in the New York Times. Try to contain your laughter at home, but the headline reads, "I was one of Biden's border advisors. Here's how to fix our immigration system." Wow, really? We need advice from the very people that created the most preventable national security disaster, unmitigated disaster in our country's history? Wow. And they lied about it for 4 years. Let's take their advice. All right, but we begin tonight a simple question. Is there anyone in the Democratic Party, anybody, maybe John Fetterman, but he's probably it, that is willing to stand up against the very woke, anti-Semitic, and some of them, Marxist communist status, the ones that are now leading the Democratic Party and our country down a very dark path? Schumer, Jeffries, Pelosi, along with every so-called moderate Democrat and governor, they're all cowering in fear. They are impotent. They are paralyzed with fear. In the world's greatest city, top Democrats are now kissing the ring of a 33-year-old devout Marxist named Zoran Mamdani, or as we affectionately refer to him on this program, Marxist Mamdani. Now, Zoran does not have an impressive resume or a list of accomplishments. As a matter of fact, none. Zero. He has virtually no experience in the private sector and very minor experience in government. He's no expert, I can tell you that, on economics or logistics or the law, but he is an avid believer in communism. And in today's radical Democratic Party, extreme Democratic Party, that's pretty much all it takes. Well, communism with plenty of anti-Semitism mixed in. So today, Democratic lawmakers, they welcome Marxist Mamdani with open arms into our nation's capital. A warm welcome for him. Take a look.
I am here with Zoran Mamdani, who is the leading candidate for mayor in New York City. He has so many incredible firsts, but the thing I love about Zoran is what he is doing to lift up working people. And Zoran, what can people do to help your campaign?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Congresswoman Jayapal for having supported this campaign, being a part of the story that brought us to this point.
Great. You got the full endorsement of a squad member. Mamdani attended a breakfast with the spiritual leaders of the Democratic Party, including members of the squad and AOC. One does have to wonder if he privately was praying for the global Antifa that he has steadfastly refused to condemn. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders was gushing with socialist, radical, Marxist praise. "I am deeply impressed by the grassroots campaign Mamdani is running. The oligarchs are prepared to undermine democracy and spend tens of millions of dollars to buy the election for his opponents. We will not allow that to happen." The only question is, I wonder if Grandpa Bernie lent Mamdani his private jet, the Fight the Oligarchy private jet, for today's visit. In reality, as we have reported, and the New York Post has reported, billionaire George Soros has already funneled nearly $40 million into far-left groups backing Mamdani, who now does lead in the polls. Now, don't forget, this is a guy who has literally vowed to seize the means of production, hike New York's already high taxes through the roof, burdensome regulation, a cradle-to-grave, womb-to-the-tomb utopia that'll never happen. And needless to say, New York's business leaders, they are deeply concerned. And I predict if he wins, there'll be a mass exit to my free state of Florida. But they have nothing to fear because the Empire State Therapist-in-Chief, Kathy Hochul, she's on the case. Go, Kathy. Take a look.
I've spoken to hundreds of business leaders saying, listen, nothing is going to happen to this city without me being aware of it and involved in it. So don't talk about packing up and leaving and all these other, overreactions. We're going to be okay no matter what happens. And so I've had to do I've become the therapist-in-chief, it seems. So saying, everybody, we're going to be okay. Maybe it's the mom in me. I know how to calm down situations, and we'll get through this. Don't panic, everybody.
Don't panic, but think about it. Wall Street South is very real. Every private equity company, every investment firm, every big bank, they all have offices in South Florida. It's called Wall Street South, and it's growing by the day. And I predict Mamdani gets elected, it's going to grow by leaps and bounds. But if Mamdani's elected, no one will be there to rescue New Yorkers. Governor Hochul will not be able to help. At least no one from the Democratic Party will be able to help. They will live in constant fear of their radical base. They don't even have the courage to insist that Mamdani fully condemn the global Antifada. Now, to be clear, an Antifada is a holy war against Jewish people. During the first Antifada, more than 100 Jews were murdered and more than 1,000 were injured. Global Antifada means a global holy war. At a closed-door meeting, Mamdani, he promised that he will not use the term globalize the Antifada. That's far from condemnation. Doesn't mean he doesn't support it. He's been given numerous opportunities to condemn it. He steadfastly refuses. The truth is, in today's radical Democratic Party, it does not matter, so long as he supports the tenets of radical socialism, Marxism, statism. He can get away with pretty much anything. All while establishment Democrats, they cower in fear. Chuck Schumer, really, you support this? Watching their party morph into something that is truly horrible. Well, Senator Kennedy from Louisiana says it best. Everybody had a kid in their class. I had to think twice about this. Everybody had a kid in their class growing up who ate paste. Not exactly sure what he means, but the problem is that Zoran Mamdani and Representative Ocasio-Cortez both grew up to be the leaders of today's Democratic Party, and the rest of the party has no idea what to do. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.